If you're interested in combining customer loyalty and subscription revenue, Claris Commerce can help. Named a contender in the Forrester Wave Loyalty Solutions Q2 2021, Claris is the only company solely focused on premium loyalty programs for retailers, from the technology platform to the services needed for a successful program. To learn more, download Claris's premium loyalty content bundle at clariscommerce.com/total retail.
Welcome to Total Retail Talks, your podcast channel for retail knowledge.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of Total Retail Talks. I'm Joe Keenan, Editor-in-Chief of Total Retail, and I am joined on today's episode by Dick Sullivan, who is the CEO of PGA Tour Superstore. Dick and I are going to discuss a little bit about the growth that PGA Tour Superstore has realized over the last year or so, as well as talk a little bit about his diverse career, both in retail and across other industries as well. So thank you for joining me today, Dick.
Great to be here, Joe. Thank you for having me.
So to get us started, I think it would be good for the audience for you to briefly tell them a little bit about PGA Tour Superstore. For those that might not be familiar with the company, I think probably most are, but just in case, a little background will be helpful.
Sure. We are a golf specialty retailer. We're in the space, and the owner and chairman of our company is Arthur Blank. He founded Home Depot many decades ago. Arthur also owns a number of sports franchises, the NFL Atlanta Falcons, as well as the Major League Soccer team Atlanta United, as well as Mercedes-Benz Stadium, world-class stadium, plus a dude ranch out on the West Coast in Montana, as well as being chairman of the PGA Tour Superstore. And it's a great business. We've been fortunate and blessed. We've talked probably more about the past year. Arthur acquired the company back in 2010. And so we've owned this business for about 11 years. It's part of, as I said, the portfolio of businesses here. We started with 10 stores. We closed the store upon acquisition. And by the end of this year, we'll have 50 locations. They're large stores, certainly for the golf industry. They're anywhere from 30, 40, 50,000. We've taken over Toys R Us buildings. We've taken over Bed Bath & Beyond buildings, just to give you sort of perspective in terms of the size of the buildings in which we operate. The company, though, is more than just what you would think of a typical golf retailer. It's very experiential. There's significant technology inside of our store. It's like an indoor driving range, many simulators to help golfers get fit for the best equipment. We have large size putting greens, oversized putting greens for people to practice and try out their new putters before they buy them. So overall, it's a fun place. It's not Disney World necessarily for golfers, although some may call that. But we're a large specialty golf retailer in a space that continues to grow. And we've been very fortunate, as I said, from 10 stores to we'll have 50 stores by the end of this year.
Yeah, that's great. And as you were kind of describing the company, I was thinking that, going to one of your stores for a golfer, an avid golfer, it must be a lot of fun, the way the experience that they can have in any of your retail locations. So now that we've kind of discussed a little bit about the business, how about yourself? And a little bit about your career journey. You've noted that PGA Tour Superstore is owned by Arthur Blank, and you and Arthur have worked together previously. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your career, and then eventually what led you to PGA Tour Superstore and kind of your time that you spent with the company now?
Sure. I have retail in my blood. I started the day that I was 16. Working for a grocery store up in the Boston market. It was a very cold day, I remember, because I was out getting shopping carts in the middle of winter to bring them inside. That's how I started my illustrious career, pulling shopping carts at a grocery store. But fast forward, joined Home Depot, the Home Depot in 1992 as vice president, and relocated from the Northeast to Atlanta. And had been with Arthur Blank now, I think in 92 for 29 years. It'll be 30 years next year. And during a time in the 90s, for sure, that there was unprecedented growth. We were opening as many as 200 stores a year. That's not a typo. That's a store every 43 hours, all across the United States, in Canada and elsewhere. And it was very exciting times. And then in 2002, Arthur Blank acquired the NFL franchise, the Atlanta Falcons, and basically left a $60 billion company, and the Home Depot as chief marketing officer, to help run a local NFL franchise, which was very exciting. Hadn't been to a football game in 5 years. And ultimately, we had great success on many fronts. And in fact, played in Philadelphia, I remember, for one of the playoff games in the snow many years ago.
Yep, I remember.
And after a period of time, as we looked at different ventures at the Atlanta Falcons, given our retail background, we looked at the PGA Tour Superstore and acquired the PGA Tour Superstore back in 2010. I came in here roughly 2008 or 9, kind of help out the company in a different role. And then over time, we decided that this would be a good addition to the portfolio. As I said, we've had this now for a little over 10 years, and we have stores from California to New York to Florida and Arizona, so we have a national footprint for sure now.
Yeah. And so you have that kind of retail background in your blood, as you mentioned, with a slight diversion into the professional sports world for a little bit, now back into retail with PGA Tour Superstore. And you've kind of been at the helm of, especially recently, an incredibly prosperous time for PGA Tour Superstore. You mentioned the quadrupling of the number of the brick and mortar stores, the overall sales growth that you've seen. Tell us a little bit about what you've attributed that success to, and not only recently, but as you've grown the business. You mentioned that Arthur and you guys acquired the company in 2010. Tell us a little bit about the growth and why you felt you've had that success with PGA Tour Superstore.
Well, I think a lot of the learnings, Joe, came from the Home Depot days. We had a very unique culture at Home Depot, and we kind of have an insatiable appetite for growth. And so we love to grow businesses. We love to make businesses successful. And even when I went to the Atlanta Falcons, it was somewhat of a portable skill set. I joked with someone recently. I said, we knew how to sell lumber, lots of lumber. So how to sell tickets, we just sort of took the same principles. And what I mean by that is, we spent a tremendous amount of time at Home Depot listening to customers, the associates that were on the floor of our stores, those in orange aprons. I mean, they really guided the company. Those are the ones that face the customer day to day. And in many cases, their conversations with customers, helped those in sort of the store, sports center, corporate office, whatever you would call it, make decisions in lots of ways, whether it was in merchandising operations and so on. So at PGA Tour Superstore, we kind of took the same roadmap, and the associates on the floor of our stores are sort of at the top of the organizational chart. They're the closest to the customer. I think they have the most difficult job in our company because they face customers every single day. And I sit at the bottom, Arthur sits at the bottom, and my senior leadership team sits at the bottom of that organization. And so the customer ultimately is at the top, and then our store associates are right below them at the top of the organization. But I think, we've created a similar culture where I hope, we can eliminate any politics or bureaucracy, and people get to speak their mind freely. I mean, that's sort of a unique culture these days. And we live true to our values all throughout my life, and certainly from the days of Home Depot. We've always been true to our values, and in the business side, whether it's continuing to innovate, look at ways to innovate, but including everyone in decisions, listening, responding, and there's other values that we have operated with, clearly over the last 3 decades. And so I think that's one of the reasons that we've been fortunate to have success, is that it's an associate store driven business, and they help make decisions, and that guides us.
Yeah, and I'm going to get back and I'm going to follow up again on the kind of those value-based organization and kind of creating that right culture. the businesses that you've worked at, including PGA Tour Superstore. But I want to follow up a little bit about kind of PGA Tour Superstore has been in an interesting position where during the pandemic over the last 13, 14 months, the game of golf has really seen a resurgence because it's, one, can be done outdoors, which people are looking for all kinds of outdoor activities at this time. And two, you can do it socially distant. You can even go out and play by yourself if you want to. So it's been a good, prosperous time, I should say, for your organization. Tell us a little bit about how PGA Tour Superstores had to adapt to serve that increased demand as more and more consumers are looking to play the game of golf.
Yeah, it was probably 52 weeks ago. I think we closed all of our locations across America, and the term pivot, I think, is used, probably overused in the last year, but we pivoted quickly and we innovated quickly to try to understand, how we were going to operate our business, and very quickly we implemented, the newest and greatest version of buy online, pick up in store, which was we call it a curbside caddy program, so that customers, couldn't come inside the store. They could certainly pick it up at the store. And then, of course, our online business, the world was shopping online. Our online business, grew by significant volume, and we had to support that with resources and really understand that business and a way that we had never seen before. I mean, 200% increases. So we started, and then when we opened back up and started back, I think in late April in certain states, Florida, South Carolina, I believe Georgia, and then ultimately in the Northeast in June, all the while we focused on making sure that our customers were safe, our associates were safe. Because again, we're not your typical commodity type business where a customer just walks in the door and picks up an item and walks out. We're so experiential that, people are touching the product, they're using the product. So the cleanliness, the sanitization, beyond just the normal, work that others you'd see in the plexiglass and the signs. But it was critical for us that we created a safe environment inside of our stores. And by the time middle of June came around, as you said, we saw an incredible amount of families coming into our stores, and not just because it's Father's Day, which is a big time for our business. It's sort of our Christmas. It was wonderful to see new golfers that had never played the game before, and golfers that came back to the game. It really gave us great momentum as we went through the summer and we went through the fall. Again, all the while making sure that we protected our customers and protected our associates. That was our main focus.
So, and I would imagine, we've talked about the benefits you've seen. I would imagine, even if it's a good challenge to have, the challenge of that increased demand probably, and rolling out some of the new services that you talked about, buy online, pick up in store, some of the, the growth in the online business, that likely probably presents some challenges in terms of supply chain and fulfilling those orders. Talk a little bit about some of the challenges that might have presented themselves for the business during the past year. And then secondarily, how about you as a leader? What's been a challenge for you? I know it's been a difficult time for so many. Talk a little bit about what's been challenging most for you as a leader of a company over the last year.
Well, let me try to bundle them together. I'll take I guess most of the second one first. I think the most difficult part for me last year is, I like to say with all humility, I'm at my best when I'm in the stores, and that's where I learn. And I like to be in the stores. I like to spend time with our associates, and it could be in receiving departments, or it could be in the floor of our stores and with customers. And that's where I really learn. That's where I really see. And we never consider our company a chain. A chain is a chain of stores, or a chain is, one link connected to another. I mean, we have all our markets, whether it's in California or Florida or New York, wherever, they're all different and they're all unique. And so we never try to connect our stores in that way. And we're nimble, fortunately, because of only having 50 some odd locations. So not being in the stores, was a detriment. That's how I like to run this business and walk in the shoes of our associates. I mean, clearly, we love to be able to motivate and train and give awards to associates, and we couldn't do any of that other than through Zoom calls or Teams calls. And I think everyone would say the same thing. It was very difficult to manage and motivate like you normally would in terms of face to face. But the good news is that we quickly made a decision in two ways. One is, although we weren't selling any product when we were shut down, let's say in late March and April, all of our suppliers, all of our vendors, all our partners on the merchandising side, we continued to pay them. Even though we weren't generating the cash, even if we had to borrow money from banks to be able to pay them, we thought that that was critical in the long-term relationship and in terms of the outside suppliers. And internally, we never went through a furlough. We never cut people's pay. We just shifted their responsibilities, whether it be more work on e-commerce, but the amount of hours that our associates were trained on virtually, and whether that be, sitting at home, or if we're limited in terms of number of associates being able to go inside of a building because of, CDC protocols and so on. The amount of training virtually that our associates were able to undertake, and not just product knowledge or selling skills, but, lots of new training modules that allowed us to come out stronger, I believe, even before we went into the pandemic. The unique thing, and, taking another industry like skiing, if I went to go buy new skis, I wouldn't know what size centimeter I needed. I wouldn't know what size boots I needed. I wouldn't know what size width of skis I needed. And so you need that education, you need that knowledge. And so our associates are so well trained, you can Google anything. So most customers coming inside of our stores, they know so much about the product that they think they want to buy. And our associates need to actually know more about the product than that customer coming in some ways, has to represent all the manufacturers and all the products, and be educated on that front. So, it was challenging on one hand, but we also learned that we could train thousands of associates virtually versus maybe just training hundreds of associates when we used to do it in person. So a combination, I think, of things that make sense.
And yeah, it does. And I would imagine you saw the unexpected, as you kind of referenced, you saw the unexpected benefit of the fact that your in-store associates got a better holistic understanding of the business in terms of the e-commerce side too, as well. And all that training they did, to your point, they're coming out of this even more better prepared, I guess, to serve customers, whether it's online, on the telephone, in the store, because they have a better understanding of the business.
Yeah, and I think the first part that I mentioned, anecdotally, we constantly survey the marketplace, our competition, and just make sure that we focus on our own business more so than we focus on competition. But by paying all of our manufacturers and all of our partners, we would go online and we would search for certain products, and see because it was difficult to get product, last year, and until things started to open back up. Certainly, in markets like California or the ports of California, they're still difficult. But I know by paying our manufacturers on time, as I said, anecdotally, we would look online and we would see on our website the top 10 best-selling items. They would all be in stock on our website. We could go to a competitor's and maybe 3 of the 10 items were in stock because the manufacturers weren't shipping other people. They really valued the partnership that we had and the fact that we were paying our bills. That goes a long way. So there were some benefits and lessons that we learned as an organization, again, going back to our values.
And you're strengthening those relationships, those partnerships with your suppliers going forward, which is great as well. So I want to switch gears a little bit, and you alluded to the fact that, from your time at Home Depot and then with the Atlanta Falcons and now at PGA Tour Superstore, the value of having the right workplace culture and what a values-based organization means. Tell us a little about kind of, in your mind, what creating the right workplace culture means, and, what have you done at PGA Tour Superstore, as well as other places in your career to try to implement that and put that into practice?
Well, we have talked about some of that already. I think there's one word that if you can create a culture of trust, there's so many businesses out there And wherever you are in the organization, they don't trust the leadership, they don't trust the management, and it's really, really important. We look at our scores online, and hopefully, based on the inverted organizational chart, that the associates at the top, they think that we're making the right decisions. They think that we are listening and responding. And I know. An example was recently I had a call with all the general managers across the company, and we did a Zoom call. We're not together, and I do it alone with just them, and they have total amnesty to tell me what is wrong, what needs to be fixed. And it's a very unique time. Sometimes I have to wear a bulletproof vest, but in all seriousness, I learned so much, and with that amnesty, they don't throw people under the bus and all that kind of stuff that bad companies do. And so hopefully we quickly then make changes wherever changes need to be made. And I think that's sort of the best benefit that we get from our culture. People speak up, people say what's on their mind, don't want to manage by fear or intimidation. And it's just a healthy environment. Again, with an insatiable appetite for growth and a very, very high standard for customer service. At the end of the day, it goes back to the Home Depot model. The reason that people shop in certain stores is A, because of the experience they get, and B, because of the customer service. It's not so much the product. People would drive by competitors to come to visit to our stores, whether it be Home Depot, or PGA Tour, Superstore, because of assortments and all of the other things. But it's if you establish a relationship in our business with one of our associates, and you trust that associate, you're really not going to go anywhere else. It's not like a doctor relationship, but that to me is why I continue to use the word trust. It's so important. And other retailers, I use REI. I think that they do a terrific job. And as I'm not an outdoor enthusiast, but when I go hiking and I do things on the outdoors, I go to them first because I trust them. I know, just like us, our associates are not on commission. They don't go and try to sell you something that you don't need. In fact, they may even actually advise you to take a lesson, which we give tens of thousands of lessons inside of our stores every year. And let's get your swing right before you spend, money on buying equipment. So it's a unique place in that sense.
Yeah, and then that consultative, purchase experience that your customers are getting. And to your point earlier, your store associates are really the face of the business. They're the ones interacting on a daily basis with your customers, and you're getting that true feedback from them. You've created that open communication network, and that's created that kind of value-based organization that you've mentioned both at Home Depot and now at PGA Tour Superstore. So my final question for you, Dick, is you've talked a little bit about some of the momentum that you've created at PGA Tour Superstore, which leads into, okay, how do you look to continue to build upon that positive momentum? What are some of the areas that you're focusing on? And we've talked a lot about some of the different things in terms of the people in your organization, the product, maybe it's technology. Tell us a little bit about where you're kind of targeting as you look to continue this. You said this kind of insatiable appetite for growth. Where do you foresee that growth occurring, and where's your attention at?
Well, you mentioned a number of areas that we spend time on every single day, but I think the growth of the game is really where our focus is. I sit on the board of the National Golf Foundation, and we look at a lot of data, so I have a lot of data in my head. Certainly, there were 60 million more golf rounds last year. As we mentioned, lots of new golfers came into the game. Roughly 6 million new golfers came into the game. We need to create the stickiness of golf. Golf's a wonderful game. It allows you to play at any kind of level. I'm not that great. And it's okay, I play with friends and family members on weekends that are, from 20 years of age to 70 years of age. I now see people with music out on golf courses much more so than ever before. And I see so many women and kids, more so than ever before. And that's evident by what we're selling inside of our stores. So whether it's beginner box sets that these customers hopefully will grow into wanting to be a more serious golfer and buy, newer and greater equipment. So it's really the focus on how do we ensure that people are having fun. It's a healthy game. Being outside is what we all should do. We get stuck behind our computers and our screens, and so being able to be outside and spending time with family, and making it as inclusive as possible, as we mentioned, and not just women and children, but from a diversity standpoint, we need to focus a lot more energy on that. And I did mention earlier that we're partnered with the First Tee as one of our core values of giving back, and was actually in Florida last week with the CEO of the First Tee as part of the PGA Tour, and one of the largest sort of philanthropic grants. Arthur Blank gave over $10 million to the First Tee to help grow diversity and inclusion inside of golf. And I think if you're aware of the First Tee, it's not just for golfers. It's these students all across America and many, many chapters where these students need to understand sort of the values of life and building character, honesty, integrity. And we're working actually in 29 markets, I believe it is, where we actually have done a leadership series for the last, earlier this year, with hundreds of students all across America. And we're fortunate to be able to use one of the other businesses. Arthur Blank, as I mentioned, has a dude ranch in Montana, and the top 40 students will be going to Montana for a week-long training class, and I'll be out there teaching leadership skills as well. And then the top 4 students will get $20,000 scholarships. And what's great about the ranch is there's outdoor lessons, and it's not just horseback riding, but there's ropes courses, and you learn, what is truly risk in life, and how do you build your confidence. And we're going to help these students build their roadmap for the future. So I'm excited about that. Certainly all the technology and looking for new stores and making sure we have the right merchandise and inventory levels and payrolls and staffing, all of that is important, but I'm fortunate to have a great leadership team that focuses on some of that, so that I can spend a lot of my time working on some of these other value centric issues.
Yeah. And to your, what you were talking about, those will come, I would imagine, as you grow the appeal of the game, and not only some of the, not only the game of golf, but some of the life skills that you're teaching some of these, and not only grow the game, women, children, minorities, getting more of them into the game of golf. That'll be trickle down to benefit PGA Tour Superstore in the end, I would imagine.
That's the goal.
Great. Well, I want to take this opportunity to thank Dick Sullivan, the CEO of PGA Tour Superstore, for joining us on today's episode of Total Retail Talks, telling us a little bit about his career and the growth they've seen at PGA Tour Superstore. So thank you, Dick.
Thank you, Joe. It's been great being with you.
Thanks for listening. For more information on this podcast, please check out our podcast channel page at mytotalretail.com/podcast for show notes. Total Retail Talks is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and Spotify. Make sure to subscribe on our podcast channel page as well. If you've enjoyed this episode, please take a few moments to rate and review this podcast. Thanks, and until next time, this has been Total Retail Talks.
Claris Commerce can build, manage, and optimize a premium loyalty program for your brand that combines customer loyalty and subscription revenue. To learn more, download Claris's premium loyalty content bundle at clariscommerce.com/totalretail.